Welcome back, everyone. Live and direct with Dr. G. I'm your host, Dr. G. Happy to have with me tonight someone that I find to be very important in my life. I'm going to introduce her in a few moments, but I want to say thank you to all of you that listened to our podcast from last month. And that podcast dealt with marriage and being new in marriage and being old in marriage. And some of the questions, comments, and concerns that I got from you led me to tonight's show. And so I had no choice but to bring in someone that many kept asking about. Who is your wife and why didn't you have a woman on the show? And so tonight, I'm going to introduce to you right now my wife, Angela McCord.
Good evening, everyone. I am Angela McCord, and I am happy and delighted to be here with Dr. G this evening in this capacity.
So I'm just going to tell everyone this is going to be a very unorthodox type of show. And I say that because she's nervous about being live and direct on camera. And I say live and direct, even though this is a tape session, it's live to us because it's happening right now. She doesn't know some of the things I'm going to talk about. And I'm quite sure I don't know any of the things that she may throw back at me. So we're going to just try to take it from the top and see how it goes. First of all, we've been together I'm going to say 37 years. We've been married 32 years, going on 33 years in a couple of months. And we've had just about everything that you can have in a marriage: highs and lows, ups and downs, peaks and valleys. But one thing that we like to joke and say to everyone is, what is that?
We
We still
still
together.
together.
and, and that's a little play off of a show we used to see some years ago. I think it was called In Living Color.
Mhm.
And so let me just go ahead and give a few warnings. First of all, everyone's love language looks different. I say that because we've been together so long that sometimes it appears that we are arguing. In fact, we are, but we're used to that because we're used to each other. And so if we get into a little spat here and there during tonight's conversation, pay it no mind. Don't send me any notes. Don't send me any texts saying you should have let her talk, or you should have done this, or you need to be quiet. This is how we get down. So just kind of wanted to try something different tonight. And Angela, I'm going to share with everyone about my recent update from my visit to the doctor. One of the reasons I have said to others that you have to find someone that you are sure is going to be with you for the long haul. I had a situation occur last year where I experienced quadruple bypass. And what that means is my chest was cracked open. I was in a situation where the doctors described it as the widowmaker, and some of you may know, but only 10% survive it. And so, as healthy as I might have appeared on the outside, something inherently was going wrong on the inside. Happily for me, I had someone that was with me throughout that ordeal. And I know it had to be a tough time for her, but I don't think I've ever really said thank you the way that I'm saying thank you tonight. Thank you for being there with me. Talk a little bit about what that situation may have been like for you. And I know that's a tough one to start with, but I do want to start with that because I want to share the good news about my appointment this week.
Yeah, so it was very tough. And I guess the obvious part for most people that know you or people that meet you on a daily basis, they look at your physique and how, nice it is.
Physique, huh?
And,
Thank you.
and come on now, I always tell people, I'm like, I'm living with Mr. Olympia here. But yeah, and I say that to say that you've never been a stranger since I met you to physical fitness, exercise and working out. So when we did come upon this battle, it was first very scary because I'm like, well, wait, this is not supposed to happen to my husband because he does what he's supposed to do. So that was very, very trying and very scary to see someone, and just like our children, and they're adults, 32, 30, 32, I'm sorry, 30,
32 and
32 and
26.
26.
You trying to name some of my other kids.
Wait,
I
let's
didn't
not
think you knew about that.
let's not talk about that. But anyway, Yeah, so even with the kids, we all looked at you like, I mean, still do. We're like, oh, this giant, figure, and then to see you kind of down, we're like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? So yeah, it was a scary time, and so we were all just grateful that you were able to come through.
Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that I remember most, and this leads me to one of these hot questions that I'm going to ask. One of the things I remember most about my situation is waking up out of, I guess they call it sedation, and not really knowing where I was. But I remember as vividly as yesterday, I looked over and you had both of my cell phones. And I said, "Oh Lord, what's going on?" And I don't know if you remember, I was just going, I know you thought I was coming out of it,
Oh,
but
that was you wearing off.
no. I was trying to figure out, how did you get my phones? And my question is, this is something I hear people talk about all the time. Should your spouse have access to your cell phones? And I'm asking you that question because you literally had both of my phones. And so, did you have my passwords, by the way?
Yeah, I think I did. I mean, I don't, yeah, I think I did have them. I don't remember going in it or having to use them, but
Woo.
I do. I always remember you saying, here's my password, or you can go on my phone anytime. So, yeah, I think I had access.
And so I say that because I do want fellas to know that it is okay for your spouse to have access to your cell phone, because whatever's in your phone is whatever you say is in your phone. That's just a practice that we've always tried to follow as much as possible. Not saying that everything is always explainable, but those things that are unexplainable can be talked out. And so I was happy to wake up, and like I said, kind of alarmed to see you with the phones, but happy to wake up. I'm going to switch past that and go right into my updates today, because I do want to remind everyone, I talk a lot about taking care of your bodies, taking care of your bodies at an age where you can take care of your body. So, fellas, I'm saying this to you. Ladies, if you love your fellas, make sure you say it to them. And then vice versa, fellas, say it to your ladies. Take care of yourself. Know your health history. When family members pass and leave this earth, know why they left the earth. If it was an early age, it's definitely something that you should be concerned with, because many times some of the conditions that we have are genetics. And so knowing what's going on in our family tree is important. I say this because I know my father passed at an early age, and he died just like that. Same condition, heart attack took him out. But what I remember from that most is that I said, I want to do something different than what he did. And so that led me and has always prompted me to work out on a regular basis, to make sure that I take care of my body, to try to eat as best I can, to make sure I'm not abusing anything, be it drugs, alcohol, etc. Although I do smoke cigars, I think anything can be done in moderation. But I also spend a lot of time making sure I go to the doctor. And so today, after a year of going through treatments and medical diagnosis and taking different medicines, I'm happy to report that this is the healthiest I have been probably since I was born.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Oh, well, let me tell you what that means for you. It means you don't get away as soon as you probably thought you would.
Oh my
I
gosh.
plan. I don't know what that meant, but I plan on being here for a little while.
Well, I'm down with that.
Okay, all right. So, so,
Like full flat tires.
so let me ask you a question, and I say this again with all seriousness. I talked about love language a moment ago. We have conversations, and I said this on the last show, that we have conversations sometimes that seem to be uh, never-ending, conversations that can get out of hand. But what keeps you together when we're having to go through difficult times? What makes you want to keep going?
I think the biggest thing, when you have any disagreement or any troubling times, I think the biggest thing, to that happens, that pulls you back, is to look at all of the wonderful and all of the good times, because those things are front and center. and they'll, come back to the surface. Um, and they somehow have a way of outshining. I know in my case, I can't say that for everyone, but for me, they have a way of outshining anything else. And so I know I can say that for myself.
Okay, so I'm gonna make note of that, just to remind you when things get tough.
Send me a picture of a good time.
I'm gonna send you a picture of a good time, or remind you of something that you said was a good time. I think for me, what comes to my mind more than anything else, and definitely because we've seen so many couples uh, dissolve their marriages, just knowing that you're more than likely going to have to start over. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anyone that's been married once, twice, three times, because sometimes that's what works for them. But I can't stand the idea of possibly having to start over. And what I mean by that is, I know I am annoying. I'm not sure what the laughter is. And I know I have my ways. I don't know if anyone else could put up with me day in and day out. And so I tend to find myself leaning on the idea that not only do I not want to start over, I don't want to start over with anyone else.
Well,
Uh,
I hope you're not saying that you wouldn't want to put anyone else through this.
well, no, pretty much what I'm saying is when I start over, because we start over a lot. And that's what I mean. We
Right.
start over a
Right,
lot.
right.
We have moments where we have to disconnect, but then we have to start over.
Mhm.
What's that word?
Reset.
Yeah, that's the word I hear
Reset.
all the time
Mhm.
from you. Reset. We have to reset because it's easy to get upset. It's easy to get disillusioned,
Mhm.
uh, but it's also easy to reset.
Mhm.
And every time we reset, it leads us to a better day. We may start off on a high in the morning and somewhere in the middle get on a low, and then you say reset, and then you know what that means. That means we getting in the bedroom and we starting all over again. So
Now people are gonna think that's that's like a sex word.
no, that's sex. We married. We can say that. Uh, I mean, that's it's nothing wrong with saying that. I mean, I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying anything, improper. But if I'm having it with you, I think that's appropriate. So, but yeah, just being able to reset, I think, is where we've been able to get over the hump a lot of times. So I'm very thankful about that. And one of the other things that I think is we're intentional. I'm intentional when I'm being an ass, but I'm also intentional when I'm trying to make up. So I like to think that you are as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
Another thing too, you have to understand, women, they don't hold themselves accountable. You haven't heard her one time say anything that she's done that might not be proper, but I'm used to that. So
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that.
yeah, okay,
We're not gonna
well,
talk about that.
we'll leave that alone. We'll leave that alone. Heading into the holidays, one of the things that we have always done is just celebrate every day as a holiday. I'm bringing that up because someone was talking today about what they were going to get their spouse for a Christmas gift. Talk a little bit about what our philosophy is as it relates to gift giving.
That's odd you would say that. So because I don't know, all of your topics and the things that you want to talk about, but you brought that up. And actually, today, before I answer that, in class, I'm a classroom teacher and I am teaching middle school sixth and seventh graders now. And so one of my students asked me today, Dr. McCord, are you ready for Christmas?
Number two.
Have you done all of your Christmas shopping? So I said, actually, my husband and I, we don't really do Christmas like that. So and then you ask that question. So what we normally do is, and especially after the kids are, older, not just adults. I mean, when the children, they were still living with us. And we would actually celebrate other people. We would actually go and do something for a family or one thing that I saw my husband do once, and then we started doing this. just walked up in I think it was a Walmart or it could have been a grocery store. And we were just he actually did it. He was with the kids the first time he did it. And just walked up and found an elderly person getting groceries, and he just walked up and paid for their groceries. And I thought that was very nice. And
And
we've been doing that ever since.
and what I said also at the time was, there goes your Christmas money. You know,
That's what he told the
yeah,
kids.
there goes your Christmas money. The joy of giving is always something that I have found to be worth more than anything else that I could ever receive. I get such a joy out of giving, and so I'm just happy to be able to walk into this holiday season knowing that that is going to be our goal again this year, and that is to give and to give freely. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I say switch gears because I don't want to hog the microphone, so to speak. And so, do you have a question that you like to ask me, or something that you would like to share? Because when we talk about marriages that work, I know what works for me. What might be something that you would share with others? And by the way, we're not giving advice, we're just giving things for you to think about. And I say we're not giving advice because typically when people give or get advice, they tend to absolve themselves from any accountability. And so, whatever idea you get from us is something that you can work on and nourish and make it your own, so that if it doesn't work, you can't blame me.
I think communication is key in marriages that work. I think like being vulnerable enough or being able to let your spouse know, this is bothering me or this may not be hitting me quite right. And then them not taking that personal. Because what I see in a lot of relationships, not married relationships, just like friendships, co-workers, just when you know people, right? A lot of times when you mention something, someone may say or do, or maybe you're not familiar with it, or that's not how you get down, and you share that with a person, they take it personally. So that can happen too in a relationship, in a marriage ship. And so I think when you are intentional, the word you mentioned earlier, not to let things like that happen, I think that that helps. That helps you be able to get to that point where you're almost looking for a reset. I mean, I feel like you have to have disagreements, and you may not agree about everything. And someone once told me that a long time ago. At one point I thought, oh, let's not argue, let's not disagree in front of the children. But, actually, children need to see you disagree. They need to hear that because they need to know that there is a resolve. And so I think that's one thing that
Well,
helps.
our kids know that we disagreed a lot. Most of the times it was about them. But I think something else too that I've found to be helpful for us is I'm always as honest as I can be. Let me preface that by saying as honest as I can be. And what I mean by that explicitly is I don't like to beat around the bush. If there's something that's on the table, I want it on the table front and center, no matter how good it is or how bad it might be or how indifferent it might be. I'd rather talk it out. You sometimes are amenable to that, but then there are other times when that's not your preference. And
Yeah.
so I think having a good, healthy dose of respect for one another makes a difference. Um, I don't think I can recall. I know I say, and I said on the last show that I don't recall ever calling you out of your name or using profane language in your direction about anything. And I may have been wrong, but I don't think so. Am I wrong on that?
No, that's one of the
But
things.
she has.
Oh,
She has
really?
called me out my name before, and I didn't.
See. Really?
Remember that
That's
part about accountability?
that's
They
one
don't
of the
remember anything.
I don't remember that. We're
Yeah,
not gonna talk about that.
yeah.
But I remember when my mom, when I was very young. I consider 23 sort of young. 22, 23 is young. And I said, I think I'm gonna marry Gregory. What do you think? And she said, as long as he doesn't disrespect you and he doesn't put his hands on you, she was fine with it. So those two things kind of stuck with me. And it's amazing that, it kind of fit right in with your mantra, so to speak. Not disrespecting women and definitely not putting your hands on them. So, I feel like that was
Well, wait a minute. Don't say women, because now you're going
oh,
to make people think I have women.
no,
Say
no,
you.
no. I
Say you.
mean, just no, I mean any woman, period. I mean,
And there it is again. There's that little subtle but no,
no, you know
I
what
know
I mean.
I know what you said. So I'm gonna just leave that right there. But I can tell you something else too, since you mentioned your mother, that we agreed on early, and that is you have to keep people out of your domestics. You know, if and when there's a situation that comes about, I like to handle it in the house. I like my business to be my business, and so I can recall early on in the marriage, your family was always trying to get in my business, with the he say, she say, I saw him, and that type of thing. And I don't know if you remember what I told you the last time, and this was many years ago, but
Let
I
me
told,
tell you.
okay,
Let
well,
me
go ahead.
tell you.
You go
I
ahead. Let me
don't
see if you
know
remember.
if I remember what you told me,
I just want to hear, I want to
but
see if
I
you remember.
remember what happened
Okay.
because early on in our marriage, we thought we'd save, some coins. We got married early, 23, 26. I mean, I'm sorry, 23, 24, and 25. And we thought we saved some coins. So we stayed with my grandmother.
No, we weren't saving coins. We ain't have anywhere to go.
Well, you found somewhere
Yeah, I did
because
in a
I went
hurry.
in there and ran my mouth about our business, and next thing you know, we were out of there. We had our own house.
So that was one of those times, and one of those moments where I knew then the only way that we would have a shot at being together, because we started off, with some things not being ideal, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure we had a good opportunity to be successful, and so there was no way that was going to be possible without establishing some boundaries.
Mhm.
And another thing I told you too is you have to be prepared to tell people when they come up and tell you about your husband, or when they come up and tell you about your wife, you have to be prepared to say to them, now that I have this information, what exactly is it you want me to do with it? Because if I go in and I create a fuss or create a stink, and it results in one of us having to leave, are you going to take me in?
Hmm.
Are you going to provide for me and care for me and take care of my needs like this person does? And by the way, that goes both ways. And so we were able to establish some ground rules early. And again, I think it's worked out well for us, because here it is. We're going on 33 years. And don't get me wrong, we're not guaranteed to be together tomorrow. But, tonight we're going to be together.
But maybe watching the podcast in the future, y'all will be looking like they were just together.
It was all good just a week ago. I said that earlier. And I mean that. I want to ask you something too, if I can, about our future together. And I say our future together because we've changed since we originally met. We've changed since we have been married. I have become stronger in some areas, and you have become also as strong. In early parts of this marriage, I may have been the strongest in some areas, but you have become as strong and may be even stronger when it comes to business, for example. We run and operate two businesses, no, three businesses together. And I can tell you, as challenging as that is, I don't think it would be possible without the strengths that you have grown into over the years. So, what do you see for us in our future as we continue to try to navigate the waters of successful marriage as well as business partnership?
Yeah, I think a big key to being successful, to me, business, being entrepreneurs, it has taken on the liking of having additional children. So anybody who has kids can understand that responsibility. I'm not going to call it a burden because we love our kids. But we just going to call it responsibility. But yeah, so seriously speaking, I think that you because you want what's best for your businesses, you want them to thrive, but then at the same time you have, I have my thoughts, and aspirations independently about how things should be, as a person does. And then I'm sure you have your thoughts. Everyone knows you have your thoughts.
Well,
That's why
it's called Live and
I
Direct with
was just
Dr.
about to
G.
say live and direct, right? You know, and I know your thoughts. But seriously, just putting those things together, also communicating, kind of like I mentioned before, I think, and just not letting the businesses and the business part overwhelm or kind of take over the marriage. Just having us come first. I think we've been doing a good job of that. I think it's not an easy job, having, or easy task, owning three businesses, because these things take up a lot of time. And then I also work full time now as well. So you have, just a lot of things on your plate that you're thinking about. But I think that, in any situation, what I like is I'm able to say, wait a minute, hey, I need some attention over here. And I think you're able to say that too. Maybe men don't say it as much.
No, I say it all the time. I don't say men. I can't speak for men, but when I need some attention, I need some attention.
You're more vocal now. But yeah, so I think hearing that, and then us being able to stop and say, okay, let's chill out. Let's kind of focus on each other for a minute here, and then, we'll take care of everything else.
And this is a perfect example of taking some time out to be together and focus on each other.
Mhm.
Because again, as I said, when the idea came to me to have you on the show, I thought about, hey, this is just another yet another opportunity for us to spend some time together doing something that we haven't done before. You have to be unafraid to do things together, and that's always been something that I think we've been able to successfully um, endure over time, and that is trying something new together.
Mhm.
One of the things that I can say to anyone about not just the partnership as it relates to business, but especially to marriage, is there's no perfect recipe for how this is supposed to go. So no one can look at us and say that we are miserable with one another, but no one can look at us and say, hey, they are definitely always in love together. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but we enjoy each other 100% to the point that we can agree and we can disagree, and it still looks a lot alike. But being together in business, I want to make sure everyone understands this is different than being together in marriage, because you said something a moment ago that resonated with me, and I don't know if you recall, but you told me the only time I call you is when I have needs for the businesses, and I disagree 100%, because I call you for other things too. I call you to say I love you. I call you to tell you I appreciate you. I call you to say thank you. But for some reason, when you on your, you know, bullshit, you just like to throw things up in my face. Why is that?
That's just what women do
Okay,
sometimes.
all right. I just wanted to see if you were going to respond to that since I have you on camera. But I have it, and so it's taped, and I'm going to replay it if I have to. I do want to not prolong today's show. I want to ask if you have anything else you'd like to share. And if not, I'm going to close us out with a few thoughts heading into 2025 as it relates to how couples can stay together and make their marriages work.
Well, one thing I wanted to say is that I think another thing that makes marriages work, with business and without business, I think having God at the center is important. And when I say this, I don't mean having God at the center where, you and your partner are in church all the time, every week, every day. And that's not what I mean, but I mean where both individuals believe in God. Both individuals feel like and have a belief about the sanctity of marriage and where God fits in that. And then I think that also helps when it comes to having to reset. So that's very important, I think, having that belief. So I think that's another thing that has, helped us all of these years um, in business and love and in marriage.
Okay. All right. So again, just wrapping up and closing out, I just want to remind everyone again that there is no such thing as a perfect marriage. There's no such thing as a recipe for a perfect marriage. You have to have two willing partners, willing to accept each other, willing to forgive each other, and willing to understand each other in order to be successful in marriage. We just happen to be married and we happen to be in business together. And so far, it's worked out well. Again, I'm not perfect by any means, and I don't want anyone to mistake this, us together here right now, as me saying or signifying that we are perfect, because we both have things that we work on, things that we forgive each other for, and things that we continue to work on as we move each day. But three things that I can tell you that I do each and every day. And you mentioned having a strong faith in God. That's definitely one. I exercise my faith every day, not just in my life, but especially first in my marriage. So before my feet touch the floor every day, I say my prayers, I do my devotion, and then I give my wife a kiss before I get out of the bed. Now, I can't recall not ever doing that. Another thing that I do every day is I don't care if I go to the mailbox. When I walk out the door, I say, I love you. And you say I love you too, so I'm not going to just say it's me. And we do that because who knows if that's going to be the last time you have an opportunity to say that to someone, because we're not guaranteed to make it back in the house. And so I think that's been great. And then the third thing is we don't go to bed angry. We might get into bed angry, but we don't go to sleep angry. Before we go to sleep, we resolve our differences, we huddle up, and we make sure that we say I love you before we go to sleep, because again, there's no guarantee that you're going to wake up, and I don't want to ever have to think about not being able to say that, or her not being able to hear it, or me not being able to hear it, and one of us leaves this earth. So if you just practice those three things, you can forget the rest of the podcast. Start doing those three things, and it gives you a better outlook about who it is you're with and why you're with them, and in hopes that the two of you will be together until, as they say, uh, coming down towards the end of the ceremony, till death do us part. And so, thank you for taking the time to come on and
Thank you
spend
for
some
having
time
me.
live and direct with Dr. G. We're going to be bringing you some exciting content in 2025. I just wanted to take a moment and let everyone know that I do listen. I did hear the questions. I did respond to the concerns. I did bring a lady onto the set, and that lady happens to be my wife. And so I hope that lets you know that we do care about what you say, and we are interested in what it is you want us to bring to the table. Because again, my goal is not to just be a regular, ordinary person on podcasts. I'm looking to do something a little bit different, and that is provide insight to the point and the degree that you can go out and have conversations that spark something that may lead you to become better in who you are. Thank you so much. Live and direct with Dr. G. We'll see you next time.